You ever get that feeling that something bad is about to happen, and no matter what you do, you're trapped in it anyway? That's exactly how my Friday night started. I was leaning against my cherry red Mustang GT, the engine purring like a beast, eager to be unleashed when I saw him. The guy, well, kid, really, strolling down the cul-de-sac like he owned the place. His mom, Mrs. Henderson, or as the neighborhood calls her, Joey Karen, was somewhere behind him, clipboard in hand, probably ready to scold someone for having a garden gnome slightly out of alignment. I didn't think much of it at first. Teenagers do stupid things all the time. But then he looked over, spotted the Mustang, and his eyes lit up with that reckless, overconfident glow only teenage boys possess. He smirked, tapped the hood of his car, a stock Civic that had seen better days, and shouted, "Bet you won't race me." Now, I've been in the car world long enough to know how these things go. You either walk away and save yourself a headache, or you engage and risk everything. But something in him, maybe the audacity, maybe the pure ignorance, pushed me over the edge. I nodded. "All right, kid, let's do it. But on one condition, we're doing this my way." He grinned, not knowing what he'd just agreed to. I could see the other neighbors peeking from behind their curtains. Sensing the storm brewing, I backed the Mustang up, feeling the tires grip the asphalt, the exhaust growl filling the quiet night. This wasn't just a race. It was a test of skill, patience, and consequences. We lined up, headlights cutting through the dim streetlights. His Civic, all stock and confidence, seemed laughable next to the growling beast before him. I didn't say a word, just let him rev his engine. The sound more like a cat trying to roar. My pulse was steady, controlled, because I knew the Mustang wasn't just a car. It was an extension of me. And I also knew something about his kind of overconfidence. It doesn't end well. The countdown began, 3-1, and he flirted. I'll admit, he got a decent start. Maybe his only decent moment of the night. But then everything changed. Smoke, rubber, adrenaline, it all hit at once. And I realized this wasn't just about winning a street race anymore. This was about survival, about consequences, catching up faster than he could handle. By the time the night ended, nothing looked the same. His car, a smoldering mess. Him in handcuffs, and me still standing, trying to wrap my head around how one reckless challenge turned into a full-blown disaster. The moment he hit the gas, I knew this wasn't going to be some friendly neighborhood show-off. That Civic shot forward like it had something to prove, tires squealing against the asphalt. I stayed calm, feeling the Mustang's engine vibrate under me. Every gear shift, deliberate, controlled. I didn't just want to win. I wanted to teach him a lesson without anyone getting hurt. At least, that was the plan. We tore down the cul-de-sac, headlights bouncing off parked cars, and I noticed a few neighbors peeking through curtains. Their faces a mix of excitement and horror. One of them even shouted, "What are you doing?" But it barely registered. In that moment, it was just him, me, and the road. He was all bravado, bouncing off the limits of his little car. I could hear the revving, the squealing, the raw confidence, and I felt a mix of anger and disbelief. How could someone so reckless think a Civic could match a Mustang? But teenage arrogance is a dangerous thing. He didn't know the difference between speed and control. Then it happened. I saw him glance at me, not the road, not the turn ahead, just me. That was the split-second mistake. The tires screamed as the Civic hit a patch of loose gravel, and suddenly control vanished. He swerved, nearly clipping a mailbox, and my instincts kicked in. I slammed my brakes, heart hammering, praying no one else got hurt. But the universe has a way of making these things worse before they get better. A loud crunch echoed as he lost it completely, fishtailing across the street. And then flames, small at first, licking up from the hood. I blinked, thinking it couldn't be real, but the fire grew fast, fueled by the oil leak he must have ignored during his modifications. His Civic was literally catching fire before my eyes. I jumped out, shouting for him to get out. Panic turned into chaos as he struggled to open the door, fumbling in shock and fear. In those terrifying seconds, all the adrenaline, all the thrill of racing vanished. It was no longer a game. It was a disaster waiting to happen. I could see the fear in his eyes, the realization that actions have consequences. By the time the fire department arrived, the Civic was mostly engulfed, smoke curling into the night sky, and him, handcuffed, shivering, mouth open as if to explain himself, but no words came. The neighborhood watched in stunned silence, whispers spreading faster than the fire itself. The kid who thought he could prove something now looked smaller than ever. And his mom, Karen, arrived moments later, horror plastered across her face. I stood there, Mustang idling, the engine's growl muted compared to the chaos. I hadn't meant for it to end like this. But it was a lesson he and maybe the whole neighborhood would never forget. By the time the fire department pulled away, the street was coated in the smell of smoke and burnt rubber. The Civic was reduced to a charred shell, and her son sat on the curb handcuffed, muttering something that didn't make any sense. That's when she arrived, HOA Karen herself, stilettos clicking against the pavement, clipboard clutched like a weapon. Her face was pale, her perfectly coiffed hair barely moving, but her eyes, those eyes could pierce steel. I could feel her staring at me like I had personally orchestrated the destruction of her entire life. "What on earth happened here?" she demanded, voice sharp enough to make a grown man flinch. I raised my hands, trying to appear calm, though inside I was still buzzing from the adrenaline of the night. "Ma'am, it was supposed to be a simple street race. He lost control and his car caught fire. That's all," she scoffed, stepping closer, her presence suffocating. "All my son could have been killed. Do you have any idea what you've done?" I wanted to explain that I didn't push him into anything, that this wasn't my fault, but words didn't matter. She wasn't listening. Karen never listens. She was already imagining me as the villain in every HOA newsletter she would ever write. Her gaze dropped to the Mustang, and I saw the calculation in her eyes. "You think this is funny?" she hissed. "Your little toy of a car could have destroyed my family." She stomped closer, but I didn't back down. Something in me refused to cower. I leaned casually against the Mustang, trying to exude calm I didn't entirely feel. "Mom, if your son had been paying attention, none of this would have happened. I didn't make him race me. He chose that himself." That only made her angrier. She started pacing, muttering to herself about lawsuits, insurance, and community guidelines. I could almost see the gears turning in her mind, like a courtroom drama playing out in her head. Meanwhile, her son sat silently, looking smaller than ever. The reality of the night hitting him like a ton of bricks. Then something unexpected happened. One of the neighbors, who had been watching from their porch the entire time, stepped forward. "He tried to race him," the neighbor said bluntly. "It's not his fault the Civic went up in flames." I gave the kid a small nod of gratitude. Some people see things clearly, even when others are blinded by rage. Karen turned her fury back to me, but I held my ground. I didn't gloat. I didn't mock, though I wanted to. But I also didn't apologize for something I didn't do. The tension in the air was palpable, the quiet before the next storm. And I knew one thing for certain. This confrontation was far from over. The street was quiet now, except for the occasional crackle of the fading flames and the low hum of the Mustang's engine. HOA Karen had retreated to her car, muttering into her phone like she was summoning reinforcements. Lawyers, the neighborhood board, maybe even a reality show crew. I stayed where I was, hands on the hood, letting the adrenaline fade and the reality of the night sink in. Her son, still handcuffed, finally looked up at me. There was no bravado left, no smirk, no overconfidence, just raw, humbling fear. I didn't think it would end like this," he whispered, voice cracking. And honestly, that line hit harder than anything his mom could have shouted at me. He hadn't thought that was the difference. I had control. He didn't. The fire department had cleared most of the debris, but the Civic was unrecognizable. Black and metal, twisted in a way that made me shiver. I could hear Karen pacing near her car, still arguing into her phone, insisting on restitution, community penalties, and probably a life hub on me from the HOA newsletter. But I didn't move. I let her fury burn itself out. Some lessons aren't taught by yelling. They're taught by consequences. I finally broke the silence. "Look, I didn't make him race me. He chose to. I didn't push him. I didn't force him, and no one else was hurt. That's the truth." He nodded slightly, like he was trying to understand responsibility for the first time. I could see it, the tiny spark of comprehension that his actions have weight beyond instant gratification. Karen overheard me and spun around, eyes blazing. "You think this excuse is anything?" she screamed. I sighed. Words weren't going to make her understand tonight. Some people only learned through experience, and some lessons are delivered in fire, smoke, and the wail of a siren. The kid was eventually taken away by the police, not because of me, not because of my Mustang, but because the law had to follow its course. I watched as he was led away, realizing that the night wasn't just about a race or a car. It was about choices, consequences, and ego. And maybe, just maybe, it was a story he would never forget. As the Mustang rumbled softly under me, I took a deep breath and let the night settle. The neighborhood would talk about this for weeks, maybe months. HOA Karen would probably draft a manifesto about me in her next newsletter. But me, I drove home slowly, letting the adrenaline fade, knowing that I had survived a reckless challenge and that some people, some lessons, simply have to be learned the hard way. That night, I didn't just win a race. I survived a storm, witnessed a lesson carved in fire, and realized that sometimes adrenaline isn't worth the chaos it leaves behind. And in the end, maybe that's the real victory. Yo, if you thought this crazy HOA Karen chaos was wild, just wait until the next one. Smash that subscribe button right now. Hit the like if you're feeling this madness, and drop a comment telling me what you would have done if her son tried to race your Mustang. Don't just watch. Join the chaos, because trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.